Chapter 355, Suppressed. Each room was only 20 square meters, so everyone had to squeeze together as they slept. If they were awake, their spot was only enough for them to sit. With a bad ventilation system and overpopulation, the air was damp and full of mixed smells. Now that water was scarce, it was a luxury to be able to take a shower. Most survivors hadn't showered for several weeks, so the smell was suffocating and nauseating. But even with living conditions like this, more and more people were coming to the base every day. The group returned to their room and sat together. Fortunately, they were assigned to the same room, so it was convenient for them to take care of each other. They looked around and made sure that the guards were not patrolling before they chatted in hushed voices. "Aitg, you should control your temper. Now that we live under others' roofs, we have to endure it even if they make things hard for us," a middle-aged woman said. Hearing this, Shen Jinyu said, "Mother, we don't know where they took my father, cousins, and uncles. Are we just going to do nothing and wait?" Mother Shen held her daughter's hand tightly and said after a moment of silence, "Because they have taken our family hostage, we have to endure. Mother believes that your eldest brother will come to rescue us. All we have to do is stay alive and wait for him." After she said these words, another middle-aged woman nodded and said, "Zyro Yue, listen to your mother. When my daughter returns from the reservoir, she might be able to get some information about our family members." Shen Jinyu looked at the middle-aged woman and replied, "Aunt Zyro, I understand." Although their families didn't have close relationships, their sons were working on the same team. Over the years, they still met each other once in a while. Therefore, when they escaped from the zombie horde and reached this base, they recognized each other. After bribing the guards, they managed to stay in the same room. Even though there were other people staying in their room, they had more people, so others didn't dare to bully them. At first, the guards treated them well, but after a while, they started to suppress them for an unknown reason. Now, not only did they have to work 10 hours a day, but their rations were also cut down by half. If this situation continued for a long time, they might die from exhaustion or starvation. Not long after, a guard came over and said, "Break time is over, everyone get back to work." Hearing this, one after another, they woke up from their nap and went to their assigned areas to continue with their work. At the same time, the Phantom team had left the provincial city and arrived at the military base located in the border area. As usual, they cleared out the zombies in the area before entering the base. Compared to other bases, this one was used as a warehouse to store weapons and vehicles. They had checked the map, and judging from the situation at Pingjiang City, it would take them half a year to reach the capital if they drove there. To save time, they decided to check this base and try their luck to see if they could get their hands on military choppers. After Wen Mo opened the heavy iron gate, they walked into the base while holding their airguns. Roar! Seeing the zombies wearing military uniforms rushing toward them, the members looked at them with complicated gazes and hesitated. But their hesitation only lasted a few seconds before they raised their airguns and pulled the triggers. Pop, pop, pop. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of metal bullets piercing the zombies' skulls echoed through the area as they moved slowly in formation. It took them 1 hour to clear out the zombies. After they took out the crystal cores and compressed the zombies' corpses, they sealed them with metal cubes before Feng Yun stored them in his space. Although it took longer to clean up the battleground, they were willing to work more to save fuel. When they were done, Zhao Lijai and Jin Zuyan were already checking the warehouse. There were a total of 18 warehouses in this area, and 8 of them were used to store military rations. 5 warehouses were used to store emergency supplies such as medicine and daily necessities such as clothes, soap, etc. The other 5 warehouses were used to store food supplies such as flour, rice, canned food, dried vegetables, convenience food, and seasonings. Zhao Lijai stored everything in her space before they moved to the next area. In this area, the number of zombies was higher, and it took them 2 hours to clear them out. While the members were cleaning up the battleground, Jin Zuyan and his fiancée went to check the warehouse. Unlike the previous area, this one only had 5 warehouses, which stored armored vehicles, modified motorbikes, military choppers, ammunition, weapons, and even bombs and grenades. Seeing this, Zhao Lijai's eyes lit up as she said, "Brother Yan, we finally found them." Jin Zuyan nodded and replied, "With these vehicles, we can reach the capital faster." The team continued exploring the base and clearing out the zombies. When the sun was setting on the western horizon, they finally finished clearing out all the zombies. In the last area, they found lots of large fuel tanks in the open field. Without hesitation, Zhao Lijai stored them in her space. The amount of oil stored in these tanks should be enough for them to use the chopper for a long time. The fuel used for military choppers was different from normal kerosene, as it was mixed with additives for military use. Therefore, it was important to take as much as possible, as it might be hard to get more in the future. After they were done, Jin Zuyan checked his watch and said, "We will rest here for the night." The members nodded and chose a clean warehouse to stay in. They cooked a simple dinner, several pots of chicken broth noodles with dumplings. After dinner, they took turns sleeping and patrolling. Early the next morning, the Phantom team members woke up before dawn. To keep their physiques fit, they went out to clear the zombies in the surrounding area and ran for an hour before returning to take a bath. Since they were men, they had no problem bathing together. So Zhang Yuan built simple mud walls as partitions, while Zyro Kai took out a massive metal basin from his space. Chen Qianfeng filled up the basin with water before Shen Jinj heated it. While the members were bathing, Zhao Lijai went into her space and cooked a simple breakfast. After she was done, she gave a handful of crystals, 5 apples, and 5 grilled fish to Fu Guari. She didn't stay behind to check on him and left the space. Not long after, the members finished bathing and returned to the warehouse. Today's breakfast was 2 pots of chicken noodles, a tray of omelets, and a pot of milk. The moment the members saw the breakfast, they glanced at their captain, wondering when he and his fiancée had restocked the milk. While they were curious, they didn't ask and focused on eating. After they finished eating, the sun began to rise on the eastern horizon. Checking his watch, Jin Zuyan said, "Today, we will use the military choppers and go directly to the capital." "Understood," the members replied in unison. When they finished packing up, Zhao Lijai took out a military helicopter and everyone boarded the vehicle. The helicopter they used was a light utility type that could carry 10 to 20 people. At this moment, their team had a total of 18 members, so they could fit into one helicopter. 30 minutes later, the sound of the helicopter's propeller echoed through the area as they left the military base. From the helicopter's window, Zhao Lijai could see the situation below clearly. Most of the roads were filled with zombies, and only a few groups of people could be seen searching for supplies from time to time. As the helicopter flew past, the sound attracted the zombies, but before they could react, the helicopter had already gone far, so the zombies returned to their listless, stiff walking. While the zombies didn't show much reaction, the survivors who were hiding inside buildings or out searching for supplies tried their best to attract the attention of the people inside the helicopter. Unfortunately, no matter how hard they tried, the Phantom team had no intention of bringing extra people with them. Not to mention that they were going to a dangerous area, it was impossible for them to let strangers join. With a clear sky, they finally saw the capital city after 1.5 hours of flight. The moment they flew above the capital's border, Qin Luzi said, "Captain, the number of zombies is more than we expected. The situation seems more dangerous than the information we received from Captain Zun." Hearing this, Jin Zuyan checked the situation below and thought for a moment before saying, "Let's go check the military bases first." Zhang Yuan nodded and said, "Okay." Half an hour later, they reached the military base located on the border. Unlike the military base in Pingjiang City, the situation in this base was like hell. The base was filled with zombies, and several areas were destroyed, with traces of intense battles visible everywhere. "Old Qin, are there any survivors inside?" Jin Zuyan asked. Qin Luzi checked the area for a while before shaking his head. "Captain, there are no survivors." Jin Zuyan was silent for a moment, and then said, "Old Zhang, go check the other military base." The team members heard their conversation, but said nothing. Before they saw the situation in the capital, they still held some hope that their families had survived. But after seeing the reality, they could only prepare themselves for the worst-case scenario. They went to several military bases, but got no results. Zhang Yuan looked at the zombies below and said, "Captain, this is the last military base." When he said this, the members went silent, and the atmosphere turned gloomy and tense. After a moment, Jin Zuyan said, "Old Zhang, there is still one underground military base near West Mountain." Hearing this, Zhang Yuan nodded and changed the direction of the helicopter. During their trip to West Mountain, everyone was lost in thought. 15 minutes later, Qin Luzi suddenly said, "Captain, there's a large group of people in this area." Hearing this, Jin Zuyan nodded and said, "They must be staying in that base. Old Zhang, find a place to land." "Okay." They flew for a few minutes before landing in an open field not far from West Mountain. After Zhang Yuan turned off the engine, the members exited the helicopter, and Zhao Lijai stored it in her space. Carrying their backpacks, everyone pulled out their airguns. They had only walked several hundred meters when Qin Luzi suddenly said, "There are a large number of zombies ahead." Hearing this, Jin Zuyan said, "Clear the zombies and continue toward the underground base." "Understood," the members replied in unison. Not long after, they reached the road and saw the zombies. Sensing their presence, the zombies turned and rushed toward them. Roar! At first, the members planned to use their guns to kill the zombies, but after seeing their numbers, they changed their minds. If they used their guns, it might take several days to reach the underground base. Standing at the front, Jin Zuyan bent his knees and rushed toward the zombies while unsheathing his long sword. Boom! A black flame blade in the shape of a crescent flew toward the zombies at high speed and exploded upon contact, killing a large group instantly. Seeing this, Zhao Lijai pulled out her dagger, which transformed into a large ice scythe in just a few seconds. She leapt into the air and swung her ice scythe in a wide half-circle. Wash tilde crash. A large water blade flew toward the zombies at a fast speed, chopping off their heads in one smooth motion. The blade continued forward, cutting down zombies in the back row as well. In less than a minute, black blood covered the road as rotten heads rolled to the ground. With Jin Zuyan and Zhao Lijai started the battle, the Phantom team members used their abilities and joined them. While the members moved slowly while clearing out the zombies, Qin Luzi flew toward the front to check the situation. Seeing the large group of zombies, he snapped his fingers several times. Boom, booms, booms, boom, boom. With every snap of his fingers, an explosion killed a large group of zombies instantly. Unwilling to be outdone, Shen Jinj leaped to the air while taking a deep breath. The next moment, he opened his mouth and blew out a long blue fire. When the members saw this, they were taken aback as they never expected him to copy a high-level zombies attack skill. A moment later, Zyro Kai burst out laughing after he recalled something and said, "Brother Jinj, you ate pickled garlic this morning. If the zombies could talk, they might complain about your bad breath. Ha ha ha." The moment Shen Jinj heard this, he lost his cool momentum and almost choked with his own fire. When he landed on the ground, he glared at Zyro Kai and said, "Zyro Kai, if you are not talking, no one will think you are dumb." After hearing his words, the members joined Zyro Kai and laughed at him. At this moment, Shen Jinj regretted eating that pickled garlic. He ate too much this morning and felt the urge to burp after eating. He knew that he might burp out fire. Rather than harming his members, he chose to harm the zombies. Who knows that his good intention was turned into a joke now? Zhao Lijai glanced at them with a smile in her eyes. Thanks to Zyro Kai's joke, the previous gloomy atmosphere finally disappeared and the members' mood improved. Due to their high attack power, the sound of their battle could be heard from several kilometers away. At this moment, a group of soldiers who were on their way back to the base heard the sound, and one of them said, "Vice Captain, it seems that something happened near the open field area." Hearing this, a woman frowned and said, "Let's go back to the base and inform the commander first." The soldier nodded and stepped on the gas pedal. Thanks to the battle sound, the zombies in the area were attracted to the open field, and their trip back to the base was smoother. Half an hour later, the group of soldiers arrived at the underground military base. The next moment, a hidden metal gate opened, and the cars drove into the base. As soon as they entered, the metal gate was closed. Behind the metal gate was a large area where the guards parked their vehicles and conducted an examination on the soldiers who came back from outside. The group of soldiers parked their cars and came out one after another. When the guards saw them, one of them came over and said, "Vice Captain Jiang, you are finally back. The commander has been waiting for you." Hearing this, the woman asked, "Did something happen?" The soldier nodded and said, "This morning, a group of survivors was fighting and 3 people died. The rest have been detained." Hearing this, Jiang Mai frowned and asked, "Since the matter has been handled, why are you looking so panicked?" The soldier hesitated for a moment before he leaned closer and whispered, "Vice Captain Jiang, the reason for the survivors to fight was because we reduced their rations. Now, each of them only received half a bowl of thin porridge." Taken aback by this news, Jiang Mai said, "Didn't my team bring back lots of supplies a few days ago?" "Vice Captain Jiang, the number of survivors in our base right now is more than 150,000 people. The supplies brought back by your team and the other teams were far from enough. We are running out of food." Hearing this, Jiang Mai's expression hardened as she said, "If the commander listened to me and was selective when accepting the survivors, we wouldn't have to face today's problem." When the soldier heard her words, he didn't dare to comment and kept his head lowered. Seeing this, Jiang Mai ignored him and went to the tent and underwent an inspection. 15 minutes later, Jiang Mai and her team entered the base while carrying their bulging backpack. While they had to submit all of the supplies they found outside to the base, no one dared to say anything, even when they took a full backpack of supplies for themselves. After all, these supplies were found by them, so it's understandable for them to take part of the supplies. As they arrived at the residence area for the guards and soldiers, Jiang Mai handed her backpack to one of her team members and said, "Zyro Wang, help me bring back my backpack." "Vice Captain, leave this matter to me," Zyro Wang nodded. After entrusting her backpack to him, Jiang Mai walked toward the central area. This area was used as the commanding center and also the area where the higher-ups stayed with their families. When she reached the entrance, the guards saluted her and opened the door with a special ID card. Although there was no longer electricity, this base was equipped with lots of solar panels and generators. The electricity generated from the solar panels was enough for the base to operate normally. Jiang Mai walked for half an hour before she stood outside an office room. She knocked on the door and waited. Not long after, she heard the commander's voice, "Come in." Opening the door, she entered and glanced at the people in the office. Standing a few steps away from the large desk, she gave the commander a salute before she asked, "Commander, I heard you are looking for me." The middle-aged man sitting behind the large desk raised his head and put down his pen while saying, "Comrade Jiang, I want your team to go to Area D and get more medicine." When Jiang Mai heard the commander's words, she clenched her fists to control her anger for a moment before she said, "Commander, D area is the most dangerous area. Even when we mobilize all the soldiers we have, it's impossible to clear the zombies in that area." I only have a total of 7 people in my team. How do you expect me and my team to go to the hospital? She asked. Hearing this, the commander let out a sigh and said, I know that this mission seems impossible, but I trust your team's capability. Commander, this. Before she finished her words, the commander raised his hand to interrupt her and said, Vice Captain Jiang, this is an order. You will have 1 day to prepare and depart tomorrow. Knowing that this matter was settled, Jiang Mai stared at the commander coldly and left the office in heavy steps. After leaving the office, Jiang Mai returned to her room and saw that her roommates were back from their missions. Seeing only 2 of her roommates who returned, she said nothing and went to her bed. Unlike the survivors, the guards and soldiers were assigned to rooms with bunk beds. Each room has 4 bunk beds that could accommodate a total of 8 people. When they first came to this military base, her room was full. But with each passing day, the roommates who returned from the missions were getting fewer and fewer. Yesterday, there were still 5 people in this room, but now there were only 3 people left. Each of them were soldiers who experienced the loss of their team members. Just looking at her roommates' expressions, Jiang Mai understood that their mission must not have been as smooth as hers. When she was checking the supplies she brought back, the door of their room was opened and 2 guards entered. They went to pack the belongings from the empty beds and left with several boxes and backpacks. Now that the beds are cleaned up, they might get new roommates soon. Thinking about the order she just received from the base commander, it seemed that her bed would soon be given to a new guard too. While she was arranging her supplies, a large group of people were rioting at the area where the base generates electricity. Standing in the large hall, one of the survivors shouted, Where is the commander? You promised to give us food and water as long as we work for you. But now that we have worked for so long, you not only didn't give us any supplies, but also forbade us to even contact our family. As soon as he said this, another survivor shouted, If you don't let us out, we will destroy these machines. When the guards heard this, they exchanged glances but said nothing. The captain, who was responsible for guarding this area, frowned and said, You know how important this area is. If you destroy one of these machines, there will be no more defense to protect your family from the zombies. The moment he said this, the survivors hesitated. While they didn't understand the details of the base's defensive system, they knew that without electricity, the base would lose lots of its defensive power. Not to mention the electric walls surrounding the base. Without electricity, they wouldn't be able to use any monitoring camera or the laser-powered weapon to clear the base's perimeter. With so many zombies outside, it would be a matter of time before the base fell without these defensive systems. Noticing their hesitation, the captain heaved a sigh of relief before he said, Everyone, the base is running out of supplies, but we are sending out more soldiers to search for supplies. When we get the supplies, we will give you your salary. But before that, no one should leave this area and you have to continue working. Otherwise, the base will be breached by the zombies and all of us will die. The survivors looked at the machines that connected to the running mill and went silent. It has been almost a month since they came here. After they were recruited by the base as workers, they had to run for at least 2 hours non-stop before they could rest for half an hour. They had to work for 8 hours a day before they could call it a day. Fortunately, there were a lot of workers, and most of them were young men, so they could work in shifts, and no one had died from exhaustion yet. But due to the huge amount of electricity needed daily, they couldn't have a day off and therefore haven't left this place since they came. They didn't plan to stop working as they understood the importance of their work, but they missed their families and wanted to check on them. With the guards stopping them from leaving and blocking the news coming from outside, they grew anxious and ended up rioting. After a long silence, one man finally said, Since we are not allowed to leave this place, at least you should allow our families to visit us. Until you let us meet with our families, we won't work. As soon as he said these words, the other survivors nodded in agreement. The captain thought for a moment and said, I will inform the commander about this matter. For now, all of you should go back to work first." Since they didn't have any way to break out from this place, the survivors finally agreed to go back to work. The captain wiped away the sweat on his forehead after he managed to calm down the group of workers. He turned to his soldiers and said, "Keep a watch on them. I will go visit the commander." "Understood." After the captain left the area, he went directly to the commander's office. Half an hour later, he knocked on the door and heard the commander's voice, "Come in." The captain entered the office, gave the commander a salute, and said, "Commander, I come to report the situation in the mill area." Without even raising his head from the document, the commander asked, "What's wrong?" "Commander, the survivors demanded us to let their families visit them and asked for their salary." Hearing this, the commander stopped writing and finally raised his head. He looked at the captain and said, "If they refuse to work, use their family members to threaten them. If they riot again, just kill one of their family members as a warning." The moment the captain heard this, his eyes widened in shock. It took him a moment to find his voice and say, "Commander, they only want to meet with their family members. I don't think there is a need to be this extreme." Raising his eyebrows, the commander asked, "Are you teaching me how to manage the base now?" Meeting the commander's cold eyes filled with killing intent, the captain lowered his head and replied, "I don't dare." "Since you don't dare, then shut your mouth and just do as you are told. You can leave now," the commander said. This time, the captain didn't dare to question his commander's order, and after giving him a salute, he left the office. When he finally stood outside the office, he realized that his back was drenched with cold sweat. Just now, the commander might really have killed him if he had dared to say another word. Now that the commander has given his order, he has no other way but to follow it. But by doing this, sooner or later, the survivors would riot. Even if they have the weapons and base, without the survivors working for them, they lack manpower and wouldn't be able to keep the base operating for a long time. With his thoughts in a mess, the captain returned to the milling area in heavy footsteps. Despite the commander's order, the captain didn't use the workers' families to threaten them and let them write letters to their families instead. With his help, their letters were sent to their families. In the afternoon, Shen Jinyu was called away by the guards. When she arrived in the outside area, she saw that there were lots of people gathering there. The captain opened his backpack and said, "I brought a letter from your family member. I don't know who your family is, so I will call the name written on the letter instead. You will come and take the letter." After he finished his words, he called out the names written on the envelopes one after another. When the survivors heard their husband's, father's, or brother's name, they were delighted and quickly went to get the letter. After they received their letters, they returned to their rooms. Not long after, it was Shen Jinyu's turn. When she heard her father's name, she quickly walked forward and said, "That's my father's name." The captain handed the letter to her and said, "I will deliver the letters once every 2 weeks. You can come to get the letter in this place again in 2 weeks." Hearing this, Shen Jinyu nodded and said, "Thank you, comrade." When he heard her thanks, the captain avoided her gaze and said nothing. Not noticing the strange behavior of the captain, Shen Jinyu put the letter into her pocket and ran back to her room. As soon as she came back, her grandmother quickly asked, "Are you away? Why did the guard look for you?" Shen Jinyu held her grandmother's hand and said, "Grandma, the guard is sending a letter from my father." The moment they heard this, her mother said, "Jinyu, quick, read the letter." Nodding at her mother's words, Shen Jinyu opened the letter and read it for a while. When she finished reading the letter, her face turned pale and her hands trembled. Seeing her like this, Mother Shen asked, "Jinyu, what did your father say?" Shen Jinyu took a deep breath to calm down before she leaned closer to her mother and grandmother and said in a low voice, "Grandma, mother, after you listen to me, you have to keep calm." Grandma Shen frowned and asked, "Are you away? What's exactly going on?" "Grandma, my father said that the base is running out of food and the base commander plans to use us to threaten father and brother to keep working. They will find a way to escape from the milling area and ask us to prepare ourselves, Shen Jinyu explained in a hushed voice. After hearing her daughter's words, Mother Shen said, "But where can we go after we leave this base?" Grandma Shen went silent for a moment before she held her daughter-in-law's and granddaughter's hands tightly. She looked at them and said, "Both of you pack up your supplies and keep the important belongings. When it's time, go to Linen City and find Aitg." Noticing something was wrong with her words, Shen Jinyu asked, "Grandma, what about you?" Grandma Shen smiled and replied, "I'm old now and I have lived enough. Even if I go with you, I will become a burden, so just go without me." As soon as she heard this, Shen Jinyu shook her head and said, "Grandma, my brother is the most filial to you. If he knew that we abandoned you, he would get angry and hate us." Before her grandma could say a word, she added, "Grandma, even if not for yourself, you have to do it for me. You have to come with us. Grandpa already sacrificed himself to let me survive. I can't see you sacrifice yourself for me again." When Grandma Shen saw her granddaughter was crying, she let out a long sigh. She wiped away her granddaughter's tears and said, "Yue, what happened to your grandpa is not your fault. Your grandpa did it willingly. If you feel guilty, you should live well, so your grandpa's sacrifice was worth it." Shen Jinyu held her grandma's hand tightly. No matter what, she would make sure that her grandma would go with them. She didn't want to watch her family being torn apart by the zombies just to buy time for her to escape anymore. While the Shen family was preparing to escape from the base, the Phantom team had cleared up a large group of zombies in the open field area. As they cleaned up the battlefield, Zhang Yuan turned to Jin Zuyan and said, "Captain, if we continue like this, it might take 2 days to reach the military base." Jin Zuyan glanced at the huge number of zombies in the distance and said, "Aitg and I will open the road. The rest of you will follow with cars." Zhang Yuan frowned when he heard his words and said, "Captain, the number of zombies is too much for you and sister-in-law to handle." Patting his shoulder, Jin Zuyan replied, "Don't worry, we will take care of it." After he said this, he went to find his fiancée and said, "Aitg, we might need to clean up the road and reach the base as soon as possible." Zhao Lijai checked her watch and nodded, "Okay." When they finished cleaning up the zombies' corpses, she took out the 2 armored cars and drank some pond water. Before leaving, Jin Zuyan turned to his members and said, "Aitg and I will open the road. The rest of you follow from behind. Zyro Kai and Feng Yun, the 2 of you will be responsible for collecting the crystal cores." "Understood," the members replied in unison. As the zombies were approaching, they stopped talking and entered the armored vehicles. As for Jin Zuyan and Zhao Lijai, the 2 of them rushed toward the zombies while unsheathing their weapons. Boom! When they were 10 meters away from the zombies, a huge, crescent-shaped water blade flew toward the zombies at a fast speed, killing the zombies blocking the road. While Zhao Lijai was killing the zombies using her ice scythe, Jin Zuyan killed the zombies that survived his fiancée's attack and burned the zombies' corpses with his black flame, leaving nothing but piles of dust and scattered crystal cores. Behind them, Zyro Kai and Feng Yun were sitting on the armored vehicle's rooftop and collecting the crystal cores. As they broke through level 1, not only was their space's size increased, even the maximum distance they were able to collect things also increased. Right now, Zyro Kai could collect items from 30 meters away, while Feng Yun was able to collect items from 50 meters away. With Jin Zuyan and Zhao Lijai clearing the zombies blocking the road, the Phantom team moved faster. For the zombies on the roadside, they didn't bother to clear them for now. With the speed they were moving, the zombies were unable to catch up with the cars and were left behind not long after. As the distance grew, the zombies stopped running after them. 3 hours later, Jin Zuyan's energy pool was reaching its maximum capacity, and he held his fiancée's hand to transfer the energy. The 2 of them worked tirelessly like honeybees, chopping and burning the zombies as if they were rotten cabbages. When they finally arrived at the base's perimeter, the sky had changed color as the sun was setting in the western area. The moment they entered the base's perimeter, the soldiers who were monitoring the surveillance camera noticed it. As soon as they saw a group of people coming out of the armored vehicles, one of the soldiers said, "Captain, there is a group of soldiers outside the base." Hearing this, the captain, who was responsible for guarding the perimeter, walked over and checked the situation. Seeing the familiar face on the monitor, he was delighted and said, "Quick, open the gate and let them in." Receiving the order, the soldier quickly pressed a button and opened the gate. Outside the base, Zhao Lijai stored their armored vehicles in her space before she took out a bottle of water for her fiancé and drank some water herself. Just after she finished drinking, the gate was opened. Seeing this, she exchanged glances with her fiancé and saw him glance at the corner of the hidden gate. Noticing the surveillance camera, she understood immediately that their arrival had been noticed by the people inside the base. Not long after, a group of soldiers walked out of the base and said, "Captain Jin, welcome to the base." Hearing this, Jin Zuyan only raised his eyebrows but didn't find it strange. After all, he lived in the capital and often met with the higher-ups. If they were still alive, they would recognize him. Holding his fiancée's hand, he said, "Let's go." After they entered the base, the gate closed, and they finally saw the situation inside. As soon as they entered, they frowned. The air inside the base was suffocating and filled with unpleasant smells. It wasn't the rancid smell of rotten flesh, but more like a mix of mold, sweat, gasoline, dust, and sour odors. At this moment, the members felt that the zombies smelled better than the air inside this base. The soldier leading the team to meet them noticed their frowning and explained, "Captain Jin, the situation in the base is not ideal due to the lack of electricity. We could only run half of the ventilation right now." Hearing this, Jin Zuyan smoothed out his frown and asked, "Who is the base commander and how many people are in this base?" "It's Commander Wen Hao who manages the base. At this moment, he is the sole survivor from the central government. As for the exact number of survivors in this base, we don't have the data yet. But from rough calculation, we have almost 160,000 people in this base at the moment," the soldier replied. The Phantom team members exchanged glances at his words. They never expected that out of everyone, it was Wen Hao who survived. Indeed, a wicked scum would live for 1,000 years, while a good man perished young. Jin Zuyan thought for a moment and asked, "Comrade, I'm looking for several people. Can you help me check if they are in this base?" When the soldier heard Jin Zuyan's words, he nodded and replied, "Captain Jin, just tell me who you are looking for. My team and I will help you check for their information." Zyro Kai took out a piece of paper and a bag of beef jerky from his space and handed them to the soldier while saying, "Brother, thank you for your help." The soldier's eyes lit up at the sight of the beef jerky. It had been weeks since he last ate meat. He didn't refuse the gift and replied with a smile, "Brother, you can leave this matter to me. I will inform you as soon as I get the information." Just after they finished talking, another group of people came over, compared to the soldier's dirty clothes. The person leading the group wore clean clothes and looked neat. For someone to be able to wear clean clothes and look neat in the apocalypse, he must be someone with capability and not to be messed with. Seeing the person, Chen Qianfeng's eyes widened in surprise. He rushed over to him and gave him a bear hug while saying, "Brother, I'm glad you are alive." Chen Qianxiao gave his younger brother a pat on his back before he said, "Qianfeng, it's good to see you are doing well." Letting go of his older brother, Chen Qianfeng asked, "Brother, where are our parents and sister? Are they with you?" Hearing his questions, the light in Chen Qianxiao's eyes dimmed as he said, "I will tell you everything later. Right now, the commander wants to meet with your team first." "Brother Chen, please lead the way," Jin Zuyan said. Chen Qianfeng glanced at his interlocked hands with Zhao Lijai for a moment and said, "Brother Jin, this way, please." As the Phantom team walked toward the command center, they observed the situation in the base. When they saw the number of people sharing a room, they frowned deeply. With their living conditions, not to mention anything else, just the risk of getting sick from the hygiene problem was hard to control. When they reached the area with the highest population, a boy rushed out from the crowd and knelt with a loud thud in front of them. Seeing this, the members were taken aback, while the base's guards looked with indifference, as if this was a normal occurrence that happened daily. The boy knocked his head against the concrete ground loudly while saying hoarsely, "Brothers, sisters, please give me some water. My mother is dying." Hearing this, Zhao Lijai looked at the surrounding people and saw them looking at their team with scrutiny. If they gave the boy some water, they would definitely be trapped here without a doubt. In this situation, if they gave one person a bottle of water and didn't give the others the same amount, these people would surely blame them for not lending a helping hand. Therefore, even if the members pitied the boy, no one gave him anything. At this moment, the sound of the boy knocking his head against the ground echoed in the strange, eerie silence. The skin on his forehead was broken, and blood trickled down, giving his pale face a vibrant crimson red. While Zhao Lijai and the members were able to stand their ground, Jiang Lixin was feeling uncomfortable. When she reached out to her backpack, her hand was grabbed by her husband. Turning to him, she said, "Husband, that boy is so pitiful. As a doctor, we should save lives." Chen Ji shook his head and said in a low voice, "Wife, you can give the boy some water, but can you give everyone water too?" Hearing her husband's words, Jiang Lixin looked at the people staring at them and clenched her fist for a moment before she let go. Seeing that it was useless to beg them, the boy looked at them with confusion and asked, "You are clearly able to give me some water to save my mother's life, but why are you so cruel and unwilling to help?" Zhao Lijai looked at the boy and replied, "Boy, what made you think that we have to help you when you beg? You can beg to your heart's content and break your skull from kowtowing, but it's up to my team whether we want to help or not." "But you are a soldier. My mother said that soldiers are good people. As long as I ask for help, they will help me," the boy replied. Hearing this, Zhao Lijai let out a chuckle and said coldly, "Who said we are soldiers? We are a mercenary team. We get paid to do a mission. If someone asks me to kill you, I will do it without hesitation as long as the payment is enough." As soon as she said this, she pulled out her dagger and said, "You are blocking the way. Get out, or don't blame me for taking your life." When the boy saw the dagger gleaming under the dim light, his eyes widened in horror. Meeting her cold gaze, he was sure that he would be killed if he continued blocking their way. After a moment of hesitation, he quickly retreated while staring at their backs. The members only gave the boy a glance before they walked past him as if he was air. Everyone was focused on Zhao Lijai and didn't notice Feng Yun's small movement. As he walked past the boy, he flicked his finger and a bottle of water, a bottle of vitamin, and a pack of biscuits appeared inside the boy's clothes. Feeling the sudden cool feeling on his skin, the boy was stunned. He lowered his eyes and noticed a bottle of water was inside his oversized clothes. At this moment, he was feeling complicated when he looked at their leaving figures. He didn't understand why they gave him food and water after refusing to help him in public. But no matter what the reason was, with these supplies, his mother would have a chance to survive now. The boy put his hands under his belly and walked while bending slightly. When other people saw him walking like this, they only thought that he was injured and no longer stared at him. After they left the hall, they arrived at a metal gate guarded by 2 soldiers. Before entering the gate, one of the soldiers said, "Before entering the central area, you have to leave your weapons." When the Phantom team members heard his words, they looked at him but said nothing. Their intention was clear. Seeing that they were unwilling to hand over their weapons, the soldier frowned and said, "If you don't leave your weapons here, you are not allowed to enter." As soon as he finished his words, Zhao Lijai pointed her finger at the ground. Crack! In a split second, A water bullet flew at a fast speed and hit the ground, leaving a several-inch deep crack. Inside the crack, a small puddle of water could be seen. Pointing her finger at the soldiers, Zhao Lijai said, "Even if we leave our weapons here, it will be as easy as stepping on an ant if we want to kill anyone inside this base." The soldiers' faces turned pale when her finger was pointed at their foreheads. Noticing this, Chen Kaiangxiao let out a chuckle and said, "Brother Jin, your girlfriend is quite interesting." Hearing this, Jin Zuyan only gave him a glance and said nothing. Being ignored by him, Chen Kaiangxiao didn't feel angry and said, "Open the gate. There is no need to take their weapons." Since he had said so, the soldiers no longer dared to block them. As they walked past the soldiers, Zyro Kai took out a pack of cigarettes and a box of protein bars from his space. Before leaving, he shoved the items into one of the soldiers' arms and said, "Brother, take these and share them with other comrades." The soldiers were stunned by the sudden gifts. When they regained their composure, Zyro Kai had already gone to the elevator. Unlike other places, the elevator went to the lower level of the military base instead of going up. It took them 10 minutes before they reached the 4th underground floor where the base commander lived. As they walked to the commander's office, Chen Kaiangxiao suddenly said, "Brother Jin, our family members are taken hostage by the commander. If possible, don't go against him openly." Hearing this, Zhao Lijai glanced at him and smiled. In the face of absolute power, there was no point in taking hostages to bargain. When they arrived at the office, Chen Kaiangxiao knocked on the door and said, "Commander, the Phantom team is here." Not long after, they heard the deep, hoarse voice coming from inside, "Come in." Walking into the office, Zhao Lijai observed the surroundings and noticed that, besides the commander, no one was there. While everyone thought so, Qin Luzi stared at the corner of the couch. In his map, there was a green dot there. It seemed that this commander was not as calm as he showed. Jin Zuyan exchanged a brief glance with Qin Luzi and knew that someone else was present. But with Qin Luzi's ability, there was no need for them to worry about being ambushed. After signing a document, the commander finally raised his head and said, "Captain Jin, welcome to the base." Standing near the desk, Jin Zuyan said directly, "Commander Wen, my team came today to pick up our family members." When Wen Hao heard this, he leaned back and said, "Captain Jin, those people are my people. They are under my jurisdiction." "What do you want?" Jin Zuyan asked. Hearing this, Wen Hao smiled and said, "I heard a lot of news about your team recently. As long as you can solve one of my problems, then you can take away those people." "What is it?" Seeing how easily Jin Zuyan agreed to his request, the corner of Wen Hao's lips lifted. He thought for a moment before he said, "Currently, my base lacks supplies, and we are facing a severe food and water shortage. I wonder if Captain Jin can solve this problem." The moment he said this, Chen Kaiangxiao said, "Commander Wen, you know that 90% of the area in the capital has been attacked by the zombie horde. And more than 70% of the total survivors died in the past 2 weeks. To retrieve the supplies from one area, we have to send several teams and take days to get some supplies back. To solve our food shortage problem, it will take months or even years." Wen Hao let out a chuckle and replied, "Well, that's not my problem. As long as the Phantom team can solve my base's food shortage, then they are free to take those people away." After he said this, the Phantom team members clenched their fists to keep their anger in check. Looking at Wen Hao's smug expression, they felt the urge to bash his head right away. Unlike the members, both Jin Zuyan and Zhao Lijai were as calm as monks. They exchanged glances and smiled. After a moment of silence, Jin Zuyan nodded and said, "Give me a week, and I will solve your food shortage problem." As soon as he said this, Wen Hao clapped his hands and said, "Great, then I will wait for the Phantom team's performance." "It's a deal. If you dare to go back on your words, I won't mind sending you to meet the King of Hell," Jin Zuyan said before he turned and walked out of the office. Seeing this, the members followed him despite their doubts. Walking at the back, Mo Junji flicked his finger, and a strand of black mist seeped into Wenhao's ankle. The mist had no solid form, so he didn't notice anything about this until the mist was flowing through his veins. After the Phantom team left the commander's office, Chen Kaiangxiao brought them to his living area. When they entered the room, Chen Kaiangxiao said, "I'm sorry for the inconvenience. There is no empty room at the base, and all of you might need to squeeze in with me for a while." The room was only 20 square meters in size, and there was only one desk, one chair, and one single bed. Seeing this, Jin Zuyan said, "We can sleep on the floor." Chen Kaiangxiao nodded and closed the door. After he locked it, he turned to Jin Zuyan and asked, "Brother Jin, why did you agree to Wenhao's request? It will take months to get enough supplies to support everyone in this base. It's impossible to solve the problem in 1 week." Zhao Lijai took out several thick carpets and placed them on the ground so everyone could take a seat. After sitting down, Jin Zuyan said, "I didn't promise to give him supplies." Hearing this, Chen Kaiangxiao asked again, "Then what do you plan to do?" "He only asked me to solve his base's food shortage problem, but he didn't say how he wanted to solve it. Since that was the case, we can just relocate the survivors. Without having to support so many survivors, the base won't face a food shortage problem," Jin Zuyan explained casually. When everyone heard his words, they only thought that he was as shameless as the rumors said. Who would think about taking advantage of the loophole in the deal? After a moment, Chen Kaiangxiao said, "Brother Jin, your plan is indeed able to solve the food shortage problem, but there is another problem here. How can you relocate the survivors?" "You don't have to worry about this. My team will solve it. You only need to communicate with the soldiers and keep this matter confidential," Jin Zuyan said. The moment he finished his words, Zhao Lijai took out a bottle of pond water from her space and asked, "Brother Chen, do you want to drink some water?" Thanks to her, the solemn atmosphere was broken instantly. Chen Kaiangxiao stared at the bottle of water for a moment before he took it and said, "Thank you." Since he was Chen Kaianfeng's brother, he could be counted as their family. So Zhao Lijai didn't think that sharing some water and supplies with him was a problem. While Chen Kaiangxiao drank the water, she had already taken out several self-heating lunchboxes, sausages, and a boiled egg. The moment she took out the boiled egg, everyone was stunned. Pointing at the massive egg, Zyro Kai asked, "Sister-in-law, is that a dragon egg?" Hearing his question, Zhao Lijai laughed and said, "It's not a dragon egg, it's a mutant chicken's egg. When we went to the husbandry, Brother Yan and I found several mutant chicken eggs." "Is it edible?" Zyro Kai asked again. Although Zhao Lijai was sure that this egg was edible, she still gave him a vague answer. "I don't know, so I took it out to try." When he heard her words, Zyro Kai swallowed and gave her a thumbs up. "Sister-in-law, you are indeed courageous. You even dare to try this giant egg." Zhao Lijai gave him an eye roll and took out a small hammer from her space. The shell of the mutant chicken's egg was thick and hard to break. She didn't want to turn the egg into a mashed boiled egg, so she had to use a hammer instead of her fist. Knock, knock, crack. After several knocks, the egg finally cracked. Zhao Lijai continued hammering the egg gently until it was covered with cracks before she peeled off the shell. Not long after, the smooth, boiled egg was ready to be eaten. The members took a sniff at the egg and realized that it smelled the same as a normal chicken egg. The difference was that this egg was more fragrant. After she cleaned the shells and put them into her space, Zhao Lijai took out a long knife from her space and started to cut the egg. She placed the pieces into a tray and said, "Come, give it a try." Everyone hesitated to try it because the egg yolk's color looked as if it had been poisoned. Chicken egg yolk should be yellow or orange in color, but this egg yolk was dark blue. While everyone was hesitating, Jin Zuyan took the biggest piece of egg yolk and ate it with relish. It had been a long time since he had eaten the mutant chicken's egg. Compared to the normal chicken egg, this mutant egg contained energy and tasted like meat instead. It was savory and fragrant. Seeing that no one was eating, Zhao Lijai took another large piece and started to eat. When the two of them reached for the second piece, the members finally reacted and competed with each other to get the largest piece available. In a blink of an eye, a tray of boiled mutant chicken's egg was gone. Chen Kaiangxia was still in shock even after everyone was eating the egg. Noticing that his brother had nothing to eat, Chen Kaianfeng handed a piece of boiled egg to him and said, "Brother, try it. It's very delicious." Since it was given by his brother, Chen Kaiangxia didn't refuse and accepted it. As he took the first bite, he thought that even if he was poisoned, he wouldn't blame the Phantom team. After he swallowed the egg, his eyes lit up as he felt a warm energy flow into his body through his throat. He savored the taste carefully before saying, "This egg is really delicious." Zhao Lijai had already finished her portion and was eating braised duck feet right now. Hearing his words, she nodded and replied, "It also contains energy that is beneficial to ability users." Hearing this, Chen Kaiangxia let out a sigh and said, "Unfortunately, there are no more mutant chicken's eggs. No matter how good it was, it is a rare item." When she heard this, Zhao Lijai only smiled and said nothing. After all, when the second wave passed, they would have lots of mutant animals to worry about. By then, they might be able to eat mutant animals' meat too. After the Phantom team finished lunch, they split into several groups of 2 people and mixed with the survivors. But thanks to their neat and clean appearance, they stood out like a sore thumb in the crowd. At this moment, Zhao Lijai and Jin Zuyan were checking the nearest airport location. They planned to find several commercial planes that could hold more than 800 passengers in one trip, so they could transfer the survivors faster. Meanwhile, Qin Luzi was tasked with investigating the people taken by the commander as hostages. With his map, it would not be a problem for him to find them. He walked around the military base slowly. With the increase in the area of his map, he could project a 3D image of the base in his mind after he checked every direction. Even those underground levels were also within his range of observation. When he reached the desolate corner of the base, he suddenly stopped moving. He lowered his head in deep thought for a long time before he strolled the base as if nothing had happened. The soldiers who were sent to monitor the Phantom team members were confused by what they were doing. Besides the soldier who followed Qin Luzi, there were 2 more soldiers who were confused and full of doubts at this moment. Walking toward the area where the survivors were staying, Zyro Kai nudged Shen Jin's arm and said in a low voice, "Brother Jinj, someone is following us." Shen Jinj let out a soft hum without even looking at him. He took in the scene in front of him, and a hint of worry flashed in his eyes. His grandmother and parents were old. With this kind of living condition and limited supplies, he didn't know if they were able to survive until he found them. He didn't know how his siblings were doing either. Noticing that he was absent-minded, Zyro Kai stopped talking and looked around. As they walked past a room where a group of women were staying, he suddenly saw a familiar face. Even though the face was covered with dirt, and that person's hair was so dirty it looked like a bird's nest covered in mud, he would still recognize her. After a moment of pause, he pulled at Shen Jin's clothes and said, "Brother Jinj, that person is that your sister?" The moment he heard this, Shen Jinj turned his head and looked in the direction Zyro Kai was pointing. As soon as he saw the young girl, his eyes widened in surprise. Before Zyro Kai could react, he had already walked toward the room in large, hurried steps. When he entered the room, he saw that besides his sister, his mother and grandmother were also there, but his father and brother were missing. "Grandma, mother," he called out with a trembling voice. Hearing the familiar voice, the Shen family's members turned their heads and met Shen Jin's reddened eyes. Seeing her son standing only a few steps from them, Mother Shen was stunned. She didn't dare to believe that it was true. She had dreamt about meeting her son again so many times, but every time she would wake up only to find that it was just a dream. This time she blinked several times to ensure that she was not dreaming. After a while, she finally reached out her hand and asked, Aitg, is that you? Shen Jinj was a man of few words, so even when he finally met his family again, he still didn't utter a word. He took several steps toward them and knelt on the ground. Mother, your unfilial son is late. You have suffered, he said hoarsely. When Grandma Shen heard this, she finally recovered her senses and said, Aitg, it's really you. You are still alive. Shen Jinj reached out to hug his grandmother and said, Grandma, I'm sorry for coming late. Grandma Shen patted her grandson's back gently and replied, It's not late. It's good that you are safe. Standing on the side, Zyro Kai noticed that besides the Shen family, there were also the members of the Zhou family, Qin family, and Wen family. As for his family, they were not present. Since his comrades' families were alive, the chance of his family also surviving the ordeal was not zero. As long as he looked around, he would definitely find them. After the Shen family exchanged emotional words for a while, Zyro Kai finally sat near them and took out several bottles of water and compressed biscuits from his space. He handed them to the family of his comrades and said, Everyone, drink some water and eat something first. I will inform my brothers about all of you. This time we came here to pick you all up and go to the Linen City base. As soon as he said this, the other survivors in the room became excited. From how clean their clothes were, these two people must be strong and capable. The survivors watched the Phantom Team members' families drink and eat with envy, but they didn't dare to snatch the supplies. After a moment, one of the survivors gathered her courage and asked, See, comrade, is the Linen City base's situation better than this place? When he heard her question, Zyro Kai remembered the task given by their captain. This time, they were not only searching for their families, but also spreading the news about the Linen City base. This way, even if they couldn't relocate everyone directly to the Linen City base, they could at least help them leave the capital. As long as they left the capital, they could travel by themselves. If they drove non-stop, they would be able to reach the Linen City base before the second rain. Clearing his throat, Zyro Kai walked over to them and sat down. He took out several bottles of water from his space and divided them among everyone. He looked outside for a moment before leaning closer and saying in a hushed tone, Don't talk about this matter so loudly. With Zyro Kai's secretive behavior, the survivors' curiosity was piqued. A young woman looked at him and asked in a low voice, Comrade, why can't we talk about it? Is that base not good? Shaking his head, Zyro Kai replied, Not at all. On the contrary, the Linen City base is several times better than this base. Not only does the base offer jobs to everyone, but they also have lots of supplies and prepare a lot of apartments and small residences for sale or rent. Hearing this, a middle-aged woman said, Comrade, even if the base offers jobs, we are just ordinary people without any superpowers. What job can we get there? That's right. If we stay here, at least we are still able to get half a bowl of thin porridge. If we leave, we might starve to death in the new place, another survivor chimed in. Zyro Kai looked at them and said, Everyone, you don't have to worry about this matter. The base not only hires ability users, they also hire ordinary people. Every month, they will pay the workers' salary using points if the workers are permanent residents, and using a crystal core if the workers are temporary residents. These points can be used to rent or buy a house, buy supplies, and even convert them into crystal cores. We have to buy everything there, an old woman asked. If you work for the base, you will receive a fixed amount of rations every month besides the salary. For guards and specialists, the salary and rations they receive will be higher than common workers, Zyro Kai replied. The survivors were taken aback by his words. Hearing his explanation, the Linen City base sounded like heaven in this hellish world, but would it really be that good in their current situation? Noticing their disbelief, Zyro Kai pulled out his necklace and showed them the iron plate hanging on it while saying, Look, this is the ID card issued by the Linen City base for permanent residents. Then he took out his wallet and pulled out a card similar to an ATM card and said, "And this is the point card. If we want to buy things, we can just scan our card on the machine. When we complete a mission or receive our salary, the points will be distributed directly to our cards." Isn't the electricity and everything else destroyed? How could this Linen City base still be able to use this technology? A young woman asked with doubts. Zyrokai let out a chuckle when he heard this and said, "Sister, that is because other bases leaders can't find the machines and materials and are also unable to get solar panels. The Linen City base has lots of solar panels and generators. In the future, each house might be able to use electricity." After everyone heard his words, they were moved and eager to see the so-called Linen City base. But after a moment of excitement, another question flashed in their minds. "Brother, even if we want to go there, Linen City is so far away from the capital. Before we reach the city, we might be killed by the zombies," a young woman said with a sigh. The moment he heard this, Zyrokai smiled and replied, "Actually, my team came this time to evacuate everyone from the capital. We had discussed this matter with the commander, but he disagreed with us. So we can only bring our families back with us." As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. They had lived a life worse than dogs in this base for so long, while the higher-ups did nothing to improve their living conditions. They weren't even able to go out because the number of zombies was terrifyingly high. They didn't eat food for free, they still had to take turns working for the base. But not only did they not receive a salary, even their daily meals became less with each passing day. Now that someone finally came with a solution to save everyone, the commander rejected them. It seemed that this base was not a good choice for them to stay long-term. Reaching this conclusion, one of the survivors said indignantly, "Who gives the commander the right to decide our matters? If I want to leave this place, no one can stop me." When they heard her words, the rest of the survivors nodded in agreement. Seeing this, the corner of Zyro-Kai's lips lifted, and he said, "Sister, if you want to leave with us, it is not impossible." Hearing this, the survivors' eyes lit up, and one of them asked, "Brother, what should we do?" Zyro-Kai gestured for them to get closer and explained, "Right now, my team is searching for more vehicles to evacuate everyone. We will start transporting people as soon as we get the vehicles. It's just that we have limited manpower and are unable to spread this news. If all of you can help spread the news without alarming the guards, we might be able to go to the Linen City base together." When the survivors heard this, they nodded. After a moment, a woman said, "But the base took away my husband and son. I won't leave without them." Hearing this, Zyro-Kai nodded and said, "My team already learned about this matter and is currently investigating the base. We will do our best to rescue them. But with their families still in this base, even after we rescue them, they won't leave, just like you, unwilling to leave as your husband and son are still here. So before we rescue them, we have to make sure that the commander has no hostages in hand." After hearing this, the survivors understood and said, "Comrade, we will help your team spread the word. When everything is ready, we will leave with you. We just hope that you will save our families." "Don't worry, we will do our best," Zyro-Kai nodded. After Zyro-Kai finished his words, he took out several boxes of mineral water, several boxes of biscuits, and several boxes of candies from his space. The moment they saw the supplies, several survivors quickly went to the door and used their bodies to block the guards' view. "Brother, why did you take out so many supplies? If the guards find out, they will take them away," a young woman said with worry. "They wouldn't dare," Zyro-Kai replied confidently. After a moment of pause, he continued, "Share these supplies with everyone while you spread the news. I will come back tomorrow and bring more supplies. In order to escape, we have to have energy." When they heard this, everyone nodded with reddened eyes. Some with softer hearts even cried. Seeing this, Zyro-Kai felt awkward and said, "Everyone, don't cry. Right now, time is of the essence. We only have 1 week to relocate everyone, so don't waste time and be careful when spreading the news." The survivors quickly divided the supplies and hid the rest. When they were done, they nodded at Zyro Kai and left the room to spread the news. At this moment, the same situation happened in every corner of the base. While it was only Feng Yun and Zyro Kai who had a space-type ability, the other members carried their backpacks with them. This way, they were able to share the supplies with the survivors. On one hand, this would serve as proof that the Linen City base was a better choice compared to the capital base. On the other hand, the survivors were too weak. They had to eat something and regain their energy. When he was done with the task, he walked back to his team members' families and said, "Everyone, in a few days, we will leave the capital. For now, we need your help to spread the news about the Linen City base. We have heard your captain's plan from Jinj. We will cooperate with you," Mother Chin said with a nod. "Aunt Chin, I will inform my team about everyone's situations. You might be unable to meet with Brother Chin for now, but after a few days, you will be able to reunite with him," Shen Jinj said. Mother Chin nodded and replied hoarsely, "As long as my son is alive, everything is good. I have waited for so long. Waiting for a few more days won't make any difference." Shen Jinj held his mother's and grandmother's hands before he said, "Mother, Grandma, I have to go for now. I will come visit you again tomorrow morning." Mother Shen held her son's hand tightly for a moment before she let go and said, "Be careful." "Mother, I will take good care of myself. Don't worry," Shen Jinj replied with a nod. After leaving some more supplies for them, the two of them left the room and went to another place to spread the news. While the news about the Linen City base was spreading wildly amongst the survivors, the guards and the commanders knew nothing about this. They did notice that the survivors were calmer than before, but they didn't think too much about it. At the same time, Qin Luzi had already found the location where the family members of the survivors were held captive. He returned to Chen Kaiangxiao's room and waited for his team members to return. As for Zhao Lijai and Jin Zuyan, the two of them were riding a motorbike toward the airport. Due to the high number of zombies, they had to stop for at least half an hour to clear the zombies blocking their road before they could continue their trip. When they reached the airport, the sun had set on the western horizon. Seeing this, Jin Zuyan drove the motorbike toward one of the abandoned buildings in the area. Near the airport, there were several areas used as warehouses to store cargo or packages. As they drove past that area, Zhao Lijai said, "Brother Yan, since we are already here, how about we check those warehouses? We will go there tomorrow. It's almost night time, and it's not safe to go out now." Hearing this, Zhao Lijai checked her watch and said, "Okay." After they found a safe building, they parked the motorbike. With a wave of her hand, Zhao Lijai stored the motorbike into her space. Without Qin Luzi, the two of them didn't know if there were zombies inside the building or not. The two of them pulled out their weapons and walked into the building's area. The moment they walked closer to the gate, they heard the excited roar of zombies, followed by banging sounds. Bangs bang. Roar. In the yard, there were 5 zombies reaching out their rotten arms through the gate's gap. Seeing this, Jin Zuyan flicked his wrist, and 5 wisps of black flame flew toward the zombies. Wash tilde. The black flame ignited upon contact and burned the zombies in less than a minute, turning them into piles of ashes. After Zhao Lijai collected the crystal cores, they leaped over the gate and checked the surroundings. This building was a noodle restaurant. Judging from the zombies' clothes, they might have been the owner and his family. As he opened the door, Jin Zuyan opened his palm, and a wisp of black flame floated above, illuminating the dim room. The two of them didn't rush into the room, but checked the situation first. Since Jin Zuyan's flame was not bright enough, Zhao Lijai took out a flashlight from her space. The moment she turned on the flashlight, they were finally able to see the situation in the room. Besides a thick layer of dust, the room didn't show any sign of battle. "Brother Yan, there should be no more zombies inside," Zhao Lijai said. Jin Zuyan nodded and said, "Let's check the upper floors." "Okay." Before going to the second floor, They went to the kitchen and pantry area first. Perhaps the restaurant business had been good. The kitchen and pantry were fully stocked with supplies. With a wave of her hand, Zhao Lijai took everything into her space. Even the open rice bag was also taken away. She wasn't worried that consuming the rice would pose a risk of infection. After all, whatever was taken into her space wouldn't contain the zombie virus when she took it out next time. After they were done, they went to the second floor. The second floor was used as a warehouse. Without hesitation, Zhao Lijai took everything. The third floor was also used as a warehouse. Only the top floor was used as a living area for the owner and his family. Since the production line had been cut off, Zhao Lijai was not picky. She stored everything that could be used into her space before she held her fiancé's hand and entered her space together. After entering her space, Jin Zuyan said, Aitg, go take a shower first. I will go cook dinner. Zhao Lijai had no objection to this. Her cooking skill was not as good as her fiancé's. Rather than wasting the ingredients with her average cooking skill, it was better to let the professional do the job. With this thought, she went to her room and took a shower before soaking in the bathtub. Meanwhile, in the grassland area, Fu Guari was sleeping like a log. The moment he felt the energy fluctuation, he opened his eyes and ran toward the house. He still remembered how that person had taken away his food. Now that she had finally come, he had to fight with her so she wouldn't dare to take his food again. After running for 15 minutes, he arrived at the farmland. Before he walked into the house, Zhao Lijai had already noticed his movement and threw him back to the grassland area. Being teleported suddenly, Fu Guari was confused and stood on the grassland without moving. He looked around but didn't see anyone. With a frown, he ran toward the house again. But this time, before he even left the grassland area, he hit a transparent barrier. Duog! The sound of his head hitting the barrier echoed in the area. If he had been a normal human, he might have cracked open his own head by how hard he rammed into the barrier. Fortunately, he was a mutant. After hitting the barrier, he frowned and reached out. The moment he touched the barrier, he clenched his fist. When he unclenched his fist, his nails had turned into sharp claws. While the claws looked similar to the zombie's claws, his claws were no longer full of the zombie virus. Right now, his claws looked like metal claws as they glistened under the light. Clang, clang, clang. As his claws hit the barrier, the sound of metal collision echoed in the area. Sitting inside the bathtub, Zhao Lijai observed him using her consciousness. After watching him for 5 minutes, she noticed that Fu Guari's state of mind was similar to a child's. Looking at him throwing a tantrum, she let out a chuckle and sent a small box of crystal cores, 2 tanks of pond water, and a box of mutant fruit. The moment Fu Guari saw the items appear not far from him, he stopped attacking the barrier instantly. He stared in the direction of the house before he let out a low growl. Seeing him finally calm down and start eating, Zhao Lijai laughed and said, "So, you are just hungry." 15 minutes later, she came out of the bedroom and went downstairs. Hearing her footsteps, Jin Zuyan turned to her and said, Aitg, the food is ready, come and eat first. Zhao Lijai walked to the dining room, pulled out a chair and said, Brother Yan, did you learn cooking specifically? How can you be so good at this? Jin Zuyan chuckled at her words and replied, I didn't learn it specifically, but after cooking for so many years, I picked up some skills. It's great that you know how to cook. At least we don't have to worry that our family will have to buy food from outside every day, Zhao Lijai said while trying the braised fish. Hearing her say, our family, Jin Zuyan felt so sweet, as if his whole body was drowned in honey. He smiled widely while continuing to place food in her bowl. It's good as long as you like it. Eat more. Thank you, Brother Yan. While the 3 of them were enjoying their dinner, the Phantom team members were busy mingling with the survivors. At this moment, at least 1/3 of the survivors in the base already knew about the Linen City base's information. Adding to the members sharing supplies with them, it ignited hope in their hearts. Everyone knew that the commander would stop them from leaving if he found out about the relocation plan. Therefore, when it was time for dinner, they still lined up to get half a bowl of thin porridge. To avoid arousing the guards' suspicions, some survivors even complained about how thin the porridge was. A woman holding a half bowl of thin porridge looked at the guard and said, "Comrade, we have been working for more than 8 hours a day, and you only give us this thin porridge. You should be grateful that you still have something to eat," the guard replied flatly. The woman stared at the guard and said, "Without proper food, how do you expect us to work? When we first joined the base, you promised to give us 3 meals a day. Now you only give us 2 meals a day, and with this kind of food. If you can't fulfill your promise, just release my husband and let us leave." As soon as the woman finished her words, other survivors, who didn't know about the relocation plan, shouted in agreement. "This sister is right. I haven't seen my husband for more than 10 days. Right now, I don't even know if he is doing fine or not. Return him to me and let us leave. Let us leave. Return our family members." The guards were taken aback by the sudden situation. Fearing that it would escalate, one of the guards quickly went to inform the higher-ups, while the rest of the guards raised their guns and aimed at the survivors. "Shut up, or we will shoot you." When the survivors saw the guards aiming their guns at them, their resolve to leave this base strengthened. In the face of stronger force, they could only lower their heads. After being threatened, everyone finally calmed down. Not long after, the commander's aide arrived with a group of soldiers. He glanced at everyone and said, "It seems that all of you are not hungry since you can make trouble. In that case, you can skip this meal." When he finished his words, he turned to the soldiers and said, "Take away the porridge and divide it among the guards. If anyone dares to make trouble again, just send them to the dark room immediately." The soldiers were taken aback by his decision, but no one dared to question it. So they nodded and replied in unison, "Understood." With the food being taken away, the survivors who depended on it to survive glared at those who made a ruckus just now, and one of them said, "It's great now. Thanks to all of you, we have to starve again." Since they couldn't get the meal anymore, the survivors returned to their rooms one after another. At the same time, the Phantom team members had already returned to Chen Kaiangxiao's room. At this moment, they were having dinner together. In order to avoid prying eyes and inviting trouble, they locked the door before they cooked dinner. Fortunately, they collected several portable gas stoves and lots of gas cylinders. Using the portable gas stove, they cooked several pots of instant noodles with sausages and dumplings. Looking at the food, Chen Kaiangxiao couldn't help but salivate. Even if he held a high position in the base, the rations he received every day were no different from those received by the survivors. Only the commander and the higher-ups in the base were able to eat thicker porridge with side dishes. Noticing his brother's reaction, Chen Kaianfeng felt a pang of heartache. When the food was ready, he scooped a big bowl for his brother and himself. As he sat beside his brother, he handed the bowl to him and said, "Brother, if it's not enough, just get more. We made a lot." Chen Kaiangxiao accepted the bowl while asking, "Second brother, your team consumes so many supplies for one meal. Will your supplies be enough?" When the team members heard his words, Feng Yun smiled and replied, "Brother Kaiangxiao, don't worry. Our team has enough supplies to support a base for several years. You can eat with ease." The moment he heard this, Chen Kaiangxiao only smiled and said nothing. No matter how big the size of their spaces was, it wouldn't be bigger than 100 square meters. After all, the space-type ability uses the capital base were only at most 30 square meters of space. Not knowing what he was thinking, they finished their dinner with satisfaction. When they were done, Chen Kaianfeng created 2 water balls, while Xiao Kai added some soap into one of the water balls. Afterward, the members put the dishes into the water ball with soap before Chen Kaianfeng started controlling it. The water spun slowly before it became faster. Standing beside them, Chen Qianxiao looked at the scene with disbelief. He knew that some water-type ability users could control water, while others could create water. This was the first time he realized that there was someone who could create and control water at the same time. After Chen Dishwasher, Qian Feng finished his job. It was Qin Luzi's turn to dry the utensils and dishes. When he was done, Zyro Kai finally stored everything into his space. Everything was done in less than 15 minutes. The moment Chen Qianxiao regained his composure, the Phantom team members had already sat on the carpet and started sharing the result of their secret task. While the task of spreading news was going well, the task of rescuing the hostages was not as smooth as it was. Taking out a piece of paper, Qin Luzi drew a simple map and said, "I checked the entire base, and there was only this place that couldn't be accessed. It was located on the lowest level of the base, and we needed to use a special elevator to go there." After he said this, Zhang Yuan asked, "Old Qin, how many people are in that place?" "It's around 3,000 to 4,000 people," Qin Luzi replied. The moment he said this, everyone turned solemn. Not to mention how suffocating the lower ground area was without proper ventilation. Just the number of people being held hostage showed that the base was treating the survivors as their slaves instead of people they should protect. After a moment of silence, Zhang Yuan said, "Tomorrow, Old Qin will go with me, and we will try to see if I can dig a tunnel to that area from the outside." Thinking about the materials used to construct the base, Chen Qianfeng said, "It's impossible to break through the wall. You can try from the ground." Just after he said this, Wen Kai said, "Vice Captain, we will go with you tomorrow. With me and my brother assisting you, we might be able to create a tunnel instead. This way, we don't have to worry about alarming the commander during the relocation." Zhang Yuan thought for a while and said, "In that case, Old Qin has to find a secluded area where we can build a tunnel for the survivors to leave the base." Qin Luzi thought for a while before he drew another map and said, "This area is located 600 meters between the dark room area and the lavatory area. I already checked the patrol schedule today and noticed that the guards rarely come to this area. We can dig a tunnel from here." Zhang Yuan checked the map for a while and nodded. "We will evacuate the survivors first and rescue the hostages last." When the members heard this, they nodded in agreement. If they rescued the hostages first, it would alarm the base commander. But if they relocated the survivors first, no one would notice, since the number of survivors in this base was more than 150,000 people. After they finalized their plans, Chen Qianfeng finally had time to talk with his brother. The two of them sat at the corner of the room, and he asked, "Brother, tell me, where is our family?" Chen Qianxiao lowered his head and clenched his fists as he said, "Our mother and sister turned into zombies during the outbreak and killed our father. During that time, I was on a mission and only learned about this when I returned to pick them up." The moment Chen Qianfeng heard this, he was stunned. After a while, he finally regained his senses. Even though he felt sad and at a loss after hearing the news, he knew that he couldn't blame anyone for it. The zombie virus outbreak came so suddenly that no one was able to make any preparations. He looked at his brother and said, "Brother, don't blame yourself. What happened to our family was never your fault. I don't blame you." Chen Qianxiao had always felt guilty for not coming back sooner to rescue their father. He thought that his brother was gone when he received the news from Linen City about the sacrifice made by the Phantom team during a zombie horde. This matter made him feel more guilty for surviving alone. That's why, when he saw his brother again, he finally regained his will to continue living. Now that he had finally reunited with his brother, he would make sure that his brother would survive this living hell. After a long time, Chen Qianxiao finally nodded and said, "I know." Patting his brother's shoulder, Chen Qianfeng asked, "Brother, what's your next plan?" "I don't have any plans yet." Hearing this, Chen Qianfeng asked again, "Brother, what is your ability? How about you join the Phantom team?" When he heard his brother's question, Chen Kaiangxiao smiled and raised his hand. The next moment, the chair suddenly floated in the air. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. After a moment, they saw the chair return to its place. Turning their heads, they saw the Chen brothers talking. "Brother Kaianfeng, what was that?" Zhiro Kai asked. "It's my ability," Chen Kaiangxiao replied with a smile. "Telekinesis ability?" Mo Junji asked with curiosity. Chen Kaiangxiao nodded and said, "My ability can control things from a long distance. Right now, I can control items from 50 meters away." Hearing this, Chen Kaianfeng asked, "Brother, so you can use the items to kill zombies?" "Well, I didn't use my ability often, so right now, only me and you all know about my ability." "Actually, my ability is nothing extraordinary," Chen Kaiangxiao replied. When the Phantom team members heard this, they only nodded and returned to their discussion for tomorrow's mission. As for how he used his ability, that was up to him. After all, the metal-type ability users also controlled the surrounding items made from metal to fight. While everyone thought that his ability had no attack power, Chen Kaianfeng was full of doubts. He knew his brother's personality. While he was kind and gentle toward his family and friends, he was ruthless and cold-blooded when facing his enemies. With his hobby of torturing his enemies, it was impossible for him to kill his enemy so easily. After a moment of hesitation, Chen Kaianfeng finally asked, "Brother, does your ability really have no other function, just moving things?" Hearing his brother's question, Chen Kaiangxiao smiled and replied gently, "Ah, Feng, do you think this ability is weak? How about I help you remove your heart from your body?" As soon as he heard this, Chen Kaianfeng looked at his brother with the expression of "I knew it." If his brother was able to remove a human's heart, then he was capable of removing zombies' brains. This method of killing was indeed his brother's style. Just imagining how his brother stood in the middle of zombies' corpses with exploded heads made him shiver. Fearing that his brother would try to remove his teeth or make him go bald, he quickly said, "Brother, you were busy for the whole day. You should rest first." Chen Kaiangxiao reached out to pat his brother's head and said, "Don't stay up too late, or you will become bald." After he said this, he stood up and went to his bed to sleep. Chen Kaianfeng didn't dare to move and sat there until he heard his brother's breathing become slow and even. Only after that did he go to his team members and say in a hushed voice, "Brothers, if you all don't want to end up becoming bald men, it's best not to provoke my brother." Everyone was confused when they heard his words, but since this warning concerned their level of handsomeness, they took it seriously and nodded. At midnight, the Phantom team left the base through the ventilation tunnel. With people stationed by the base commander watching them, they couldn't leave the base openly. After crawling through the ventilation tunnel for an hour, they finally reached a wider area where several big fans were spinning at a fast speed. Looking at the edge of the fan, they would be chopped into pieces if they walked through it directly. But with the Wen brothers around, there was no problem for them at all. Wenmo stood 2 meters away from one of the lower fans and raised his hand. The next moment, the fan slowed down until it stopped completely. The moment the members saw this, they quickly walked past the fan. After everyone left, Wenmo released his control over the fan and it returned to normal. After walking past the fan area, the Phantom team members finally saw the red moonlight illuminating the end of the tunnel. To make sure that the zombies couldn't enter the base, there was a gate made from thick iron. With a wave of his hand, Wenmo made an opening big enough for several people to walk through without a problem. Before leaving, he returned the gate back to normal. Standing outside the base, Qin Luzi said, "There are more than 1,000 zombies wandering 300 meters away from this base." Hearing this, Yin Yusheng frowned and said that Wen Hao didn't even bother to send people to clear the surrounding zombies. If this situation is left alone, it will only be a matter of time before the zombies surround the base. Li Sikai looked at the terrain and said they might be able to clear the zombies with weapons, but it will be a real problem if we enter the winter season. With the base located underground, they will drown if they don't relocate. For now, we don't have time to worry about that. Our priority is relocating the survivors. As for Wen Hao and his men, they can only rely on themselves, Qin Luzi said. All right, we have limited time. Let's go, Zhang Yuan said and pulled out his blade. Zhiro Kai and Feng Yun took out several motorbikes and they drove away. With Qin Luzi leading them, they returned to the open place where they first arrived. After they parked the motorbikes, Feng Yun stored them into his space while Qin Luzi checked the map in his mind. 15 minutes later, he pointed at a direction and said, "We can dig a tunnel from here toward that direction. The end of the tunnel will appear on the secluded corner near the dark room." Hearing this, Zhang Yuan exchanged glances with the Wen brothers. This was the first time for them to combine their abilities, so they didn't start directly. Zhang Yuan placed his hand on the ground and channeled his energy into his palm. The next moment, the ground shook and a huge amount of soil was removed from the area 1 meter in front of him. He solidified the extra soil and used them to build a wall around the hole before he continued digging until it was 10 meters deep under the ground. After he finished digging the ground, the Wen brothers created a thin metal wall outside Zhang Yuan's mud wall to make sure that the soil wouldn't loosen. They even created a ladder to make it easier for them to go up and down. Seeing this, Zhang Yuan nodded and said, "I will dig the ground first and the two of you will create the tunnel." "Understood," the Wen brothers replied in unison. While the three of them were working, Qin Luzi kept his focus on his map to make sure that they were not going in the wrong direction. 5 minutes later, Zhiro Kai stared at the distance and said, "Brother Qin, how about you stay here to guard them while we went to kill the zombies? It has been a while since we got a proper exercise." Qin Luzi thought for a moment and said, "Make sure to not alarm the base. Avoid making a loud noise." As soon as the members heard this, everyone nodded and replied in unison, "Understood." While everyone was excited, Mo Junji walked to a small boulder and sat down. He covered his mouth with a handkerchief and said, "You all go, I will stay here with Brother Qin." Seeing how pale he was, the members didn't force him to join them. Zhiro Kai even took out some snacks and water from his space and handed them to him while saying, "If you are bored, just eat these snacks." Mo Junji took the food and said, "Okay." With Zhang Yuan, the Wen brothers, and Qin Luzi jumped into the tunnel, Mo Junji guarded them on the outside. After leaving the open field, the members went to clean the zombies around the area. Even though they had cleared lots of zombies when they went to the base, the number of zombies in this area has increased again. During night time, the zombies were stronger than during the day. Since they couldn't create loud noise, they couldn't use most of their skills to attack. At this moment, half of the members could only swing their blades and use their airguns to kill the zombies. Seeing his teammates were struggling, Zhiro Kai laughed and said, "It seems that space-type ability users are the best fighters during the night. We didn't create a loud noise at all." As soon as he said this, a huge boulder appeared above the zombies and smashed them into pulp. Glancing at the mess, Shen Jinj said, "Even if you didn't make a loud noise, you made lots of mess." While fighting, he thought about how his captain and sister-in-law imbued their abilities into their weapons and tried to channel his energy into his blade. The next moment, his blade suddenly ignited like a torch and was covered in raging blue flame. Unlike Jin Zuyan and Zhao Lijai, his blue flame was unstable. The shape of the flame was uneven, making it look like a fire torch instead. Noticing his attempt, Feng Yun said, "Brother Jinj, how about you compress your blue flame and wrap it around your blade instead of channeling your energy into it directly? If this continues, you will melt your blade instead." Hearing this, Shen Jinj nodded and changed his method. After several attempts, he finally succeeded. Now his blade no longer looked like a torch, but more like a solid, blue-colored blade. Although the blue flame was not raging like before, the heat of the flame increased by several folds, making the temperature in the area within a 10-meter radius from it increase drastically. Feeling the heat, the members distanced themselves from him. Without them killing the zombies in his surroundings, the zombies rushed over. Roll! Seeing the incoming attack, Shen Jinj swung his blade horizontally. With the addition of his flame, his blade cut through the zombies' necks like mud. Feeling the difference between using the blade without the imbued power and the one with imbued power, his eyes lit up. Not only could he save his energy, he didn't have to use too much strength and stamina when chopping the zombies' heads, saving him the pain of a sore arm. Reaching this conclusion, he turned to his teammates and said, "Everyone, try to imbue your power into your weapon. It will make killing the zombies easier." When they heard his words, the members turned to check on him and saw him going wild with the killing. Noticing how easily Shen Jinj chopped off the zombies' heads, everyone finally realized that this method was better for a nighttime battle. With these thoughts, everyone started experimenting with how to imbue their energy into their weapons. Those with similar types of ability to Jin Zuyan and Zhao Lijai used them as a reference, while those with different types of ability had to use their own imaginations. Although some of them took longer to successfully use this method, before the night ended, everyone more or less successfully grasped the concept and killed all the zombies before dawn. When they returned, Qin Luzi, Zhang Yuan, and the Wen brothers were already done digging the tunnel. Seeing them come back, Zhang Yuan said, "Everyone, let's try to use the tunnel." Hearing this, the members nodded and jumped down the tunnel. After they entered the tunnel, they closed the door, and Zhang Yuan used his ability to cover the metal door with soil, removing any traces of the tunnel. As they walked through the tunnel, Qin Luzi checked the map in his head and said, "Vice Captain, we can create another tunnel from here to the left and dig it slanted down. After 200 meters, we can reach the area where the hostages are held." Hearing this, Zhang Yuan nodded and said, "We will do it tomorrow. After we return to the base, we have to continue spreading the news and give supplies to the survivors. The bigger the comparison between the Linen City base and the capital base, the more people will be willing to go with us," he added. "Understood," the members replied in unison. It took them half an hour to walk from the entrance until they reached the end of the tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, there were several fans used for ventilation. With the fans as a cover, even if the guards found the tunnel, they would think it was another ventilation tunnel. After Wenmo removed the fans, they came out of the tunnel before he put the fans back. Even without electricity, with the wind flow, the fans still spun slowly. Qin Luzi checked his map and said, "It's clear." "All right, everyone split up," Zhang Yuan said. With his words, the members left in groups of 2. Since they had just finished clearing a large number of zombies, they took a walk around the base first, before returning to Chen Kaiangxiao's room. While they were taking a nap, after washing up, the sun rose on the eastern horizon. Near the airport, Jin Zuyan and Zhao Lijai reappeared inside the abandoned restaurant. After leaving the building, they rode a motorbike and went to the warehouse area first. It took them half an hour to reach the first warehouse. Since the warehouse stored packages from every part of the capital to be sent to other cities, the number of cargoes inside was countless. Looking at the cargoes, Zhao Lijai's eyes lit up. No one would hate the excitement of opening a blind box. With so many cargoes, there would be hundreds of thousands of blind boxes for her to open. With so many packages, she would be able to use them to pass her time if she felt bored. As she thought about it, she stored all the cargo into her space, while her fiancé went to clear the zombies in the area. The 2 of them worked in tacit understanding and managed to clear all of the warehouses in 4 hours. At this moment, countless cargoes were stacked neatly inside Zhao Lijai's space, resembling a building created from stacking Legos. When they were done with the warehouses, the 2 of them finally went to the airport area. Along the road, they would stop at rest areas to clean up the zombies and collect supplies. According to Chen Kaingseo, 70% of the capital's survivors perished in the zombie horde. As for how many survivors survived the first rain, that was hard to say. After all, they had circled the city yesterday and didn't find any survivors besides those hiding in the underground military base. Therefore, rather than leave these supplies to rot, it was better for them to take them back. If they managed to relocate all the survivors, they would need a large amount of supplies to support more than 150,000 additional people. With this conclusion, the two of them didn't leave even a scrap behind. Except for taking a break in Zhao Lijai's space to have their meals, the two of them worked non-stop. When they finally reached the airport, it was already in the afternoon. Even from several kilometers away, they could hear the roaring of the zombies. Seeing the crowded zombies 50 meters away, Zhao Lijai stored the motorbike in her space and pulled out her dagger. Jin Zuyan unsheathed his longsword and said, Zhai, let's clear this area before nightfall. Hearing this, Zhao Lijai let out a chuckle and replied, all right. Since they were rushing, the two of them didn't hold back at all. Raising her hand, Zhao Lijai created a large water ball and threw it toward the zombies. Before the water ball hit the zombies, it exploded into countless ice needles and flew toward the surrounding zombies. Stab, stab, stab.